Today on the Rocky Mountain Mouse, we'll talk about what's going on in the Disney parks in California and Florida. Then we'll open up my first ever chatterbox. I'll introduce myself, talk to you a little bit about my history with the Disney parks and why my passion for them has led me to create this video series. We have a lot to talk about, so let's move. From the heart of the beautiful Wasatch Mountains, welcome to the first ever episode of the Rocky Mountain Mouse. My name is Ray, and I'm glad that you've joined me on my journey of all things Disney parks. As today is the first episode, you're probably going to notice that I may not really know what I'm doing. I'm just sort of winging it, patterning it after things that I've seen and enjoyed on YouTube myself. And like I said in the intro, my passion has kind of brought me to this, my passion for the Disney parks. So I hope you enjoy this. We'll talk more about this as we get into the Chatterbox segment, but we're going to start with what's going to normally be our first segment, and that's what's happening. What's happening in Disneyland in California? In California Adventure, in Cars Land, Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters ride is now open. This ride replaces the Luigi's Flying Tires ride that was closed last year. Closed primarily because it wasn't a very popular attraction. It also had problems where the vehicles wouldn't sit on the airbed that it was sitting on, and so it wouldn't move. And there were injuries of passengers that were getting on and off the ride. So they went ahead and constructed this new one. It's the newest technology. It's a trackless system. It's designed to be an outdoor Italian dance, with those Italian music playing, and the cars just follow random patterns while you're seated in them. So it ought to be pretty fun, and it's brand new. So if you're heading down there, make sure to check that out in Cars Land. Also at Disneyland, or Disney's California Adventure, going on right now is the Food and Wine Festival. This has been on hiatus for 5 years due to construction in the park, but it's now back. This took its cue from the Food and Wine Festival in Epcot that's held every year, and they brought it to California Adventure. So there are several kiosks throughout the park where you can go and sample foods from different cuisines in different areas of the world. They range from $5 to $8, and this goes on every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday until May 1st. There are seminars that are free for those people that are in the park that are being held at Hollywoodland, I'm assuming over by the Monsters, Inc. ride. And there are also VIP sessions where chefs will come in and you get tasting and other amenities, but these range from $100 to $150 to attend. So several options there for you in California Adventure. Star Wars Land construction is well underway in Disneyland. They've drained half of Rivers of America. They've decided to leave the south portion full, so they dammed it off and left the water in the southern portion of the river. So that when you're in New Orleans Square or you're at Frontierland, you'll still be able to have that water view. But behind that, it's drained. They're going to be shaving off some of Tom Sawyer's Island. The boat track, once it's redone, will be somewhat shorter than we were used to. They're also going to reroute the railroad. If you've seen concept art for this area, you see that they've pulled it closer to Tom Sawyer's Island. And that's all in an effort to make room for Disneyland, or Star Wars Land, which is going to be directly north of Rivers of America. So that's really exciting that it's already started. This is going to be a 2-year project is what they're anticipating right now. So make sure that you go over and check it out when you're down there and see what new things are popping up around the area. The weather for this week down in Anaheim for April 10th through April 16th, it's going to be partly cloudy all week with rain on Monday and then again on Thursday. There's low 70s throughout the weeks, mid to upper 70s on Friday and Saturday with clear skies, so your weekend will look really nice when you're down there. Closures for refurbishment and rehab on attractions include Autopia, Explorer Canoes, Disneyland Railroad, Fantasmic, Jungle Cruise, Big Thunder Mountain, which opens again on April 15th this week, Monorail, the Matterhorn, it's over in California Adventure, It's Tough to Be a Bug, and Silly Symphony Swings. So a lot of those are just being rehabbed right now prior to the peak summer season, so we should see those opening back up this month, with the exception of all the things that are over by Rivers of America. Those will be closed for a couple of years. So that's what's going on in Disneyland. What's happening in the Walt Disney World Park and Resort in Florida? The Rivers of Light show in Animal Kingdom has officially been delayed. Disney's not giving a specific reason, but the speculation is that it isn't necessarily up to Disney standards quite yet. Also, there's a feeling that there's going to be a capacity issue as the area they've designated for the viewing of the show can hold 5,000 people. There are typically 30,000 people in the park on any given day, so that would leave a good 25,000 people without a place to watch the show. Also delayed with this is the Kilimanjaro Safaris night rides. These are going to be released, I'm assuming, in tandem, and so they will give us an update in May, and then we'll know when the opening date's going to be. Over in Hollywood Studios, that park keeps shrinking in preparation for the Star Wars and the Toy Story lands that are going to be built there. Permanently closed now are the Backlot Tour, the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids play area, Streets of America, and then Lights Motors Action just closed this last week. So that whole southern part of the park is now down. In fact, they just released this week a new park map that shows that whole area now is just green shrubbery. So the park is smaller, but it's in anticipation for much bigger things to come, and we're all excited for that. There's still the Muppets area over in the back by Star Tours, and you can still get to it, but that's as far south in that park as you can go. Also, this week, Disney After Hours tickets are available. This is only for certain dates through April and May. What it is 3 extra hours in Magic Kingdom after the park officially closes. So if you want to spend more time with fewer people, you can do that on these specific dates. This week, it'll be April 14th, but it does come at a price. So it's $149 per person to stay in that park for an extra 3 hours. So if you're willing to pay more than it costs to be in that park all day long for an extra 3 hours, more power to you. You'll get what you pay for. Also, on the other side of that, they do have what's now the Disney Early Morning Magic. This will be every Tuesday and Saturday, and it starts at 7:45 a.m., so you're able to get into the park. Breakfast will be served at Pinocchio House. It's during the entire period of time, so 7:45 till 10 a.m., you're able to go in and get your breakfast. There are 3 rides that will be open, and this is just in Fantasyland. It's the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Peter Pan's Flight, and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So for a price tag of $69 for adults and $59 for kids, you can go in and have a couple of hours on those 3 rides. So I think this is generally set up for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train because that's such a popular attraction. And again, if you want to fork out the extra money, you'll be able to get on that ride several times, I would imagine. Over in Epcot, they have the Flower and Garden Festival going on right now. This includes thousands of bedding plants, mini floating gardens, themed topiaries. There's also horticulture and gardening seminars that are put on. I believe HDTV is a big part of this festival every spring. And this year, they're taking a cue from the Food and Wine Festival that comes in the fall at Epcot. and they are putting up kiosks or have kiosks up around the park where you can have food tastings to go along with the Flower and Garden Festival. I have been down to Epcot during Flower and Garden, and it is very beautiful. The colors are striking. The topiaries are wonderful. The only problem that I had is that it's very crowded, and if you want to try to get a picture in front of the more popular topiaries, you're standing in a makeshift line waiting to get an opportunity to do that. So if you're heading down there, prepare for larger crowds in Epcot. Weather this week, April 10th through April 16th, is mid to upper 80s all week. Showers starting Wednesday afternoon, lasting until Friday morning. Closures at Walt Disney World right now for rehab include the Walt Disney World Railroad in Magic Kingdom, which will open on March 11th. The Swiss Family Treehouse over at Epcot, Soarin' is down. I'm sure they're doing the changeover to the digital screening and the change to the World film instead of the California film. And also in Animal Kingdom, Flights of Wonder is closed and will reopen on April 10th. So that's what's happening right now at Walt Disney World. This is the Chatterbox portion of the show. This segment I intend to use to talk about all of the many subjects that come up with planning a trip to one of the Disney parks. Also talk about anything from the attractions to the foods to the hotels to transportation, all of those things in a more open format and maybe a more opinionated format. So that's what will come forward from this. Today, I'm just going to use a segment to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Ray, and I live in Davis County in the great state of Utah. I was born and raised here, and that's primarily the reason why I've decided to call this series The Rocky Mountain Mouse. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of outlets for this Disney park information, but most of it tends to either come directly from the East Coast or from the West Coast, and there aren't a lot of voices in between. So I thought it would be interesting to add my voice to all of this, coming from a Mountain West perspective. Those of us that live here in the Mountain West love our Disneyland park. And so this show will probably slant it a little more towards Walt Disney World in Florida, as that's the portion of this that a lot of people are unfamiliar with. And one of the reasons why I decided to start making this video series is because I love to talk about the Disney parks. I love it. And everybody that works with me, everybody that knows me knows that inevitably we're going to be talking about the Disney parks. And so I have a lot of people that come to me and ask me my opinion or want to talk to me about what's going on at the parks or with Disney. And so I thought it would be good. And it's, a passion. So I might as well be talking about it on YouTube as well, I guess. So that's kind of the purpose of why that has driven me to this. My history with the Disney parks starts when I was very, very young, probably before I can even remember. I have an uncle that lived in Buena Park, which is basically right in the backyard of Anaheim. So we would go down and visit him almost yearly, and inevitably would end up for a day over at the Disneyland park. And as it was, we would go with my cousins. And so we experienced the park very much from a local standpoint. It wasn't what a lot of people do, where they go and they plan everything that they do and look for the magic. We just would run in with our cousins, and really the only thing we did was start over at Tomorrowland at Space Mountain and then hit all the mountains, Matterhorn, Big Thunder, Splash, and then essentially start over and just do that all day. So as I got older, that's kind of how I viewed Disneyland. I started teaching a drumline for a local marching band, and we'd go down there every year and perform. And I just never saw Disney in a different light than what I had grown up with. Until I hit my mid-20s, I had a friend that went down to Disneyland. He was so passionate about it, he wanted to go work there doing whatever it was that they would give him. So he started out as a character, as a cast member, and he was what I call a fuzzy character. I don't know what the official term is. And then he just worked his way up to becoming what I think was a production manager, one of the stage production managers. Anyhow, I went down one year and we walked through the park together, and his perspective changed my perspective. He talked me through Main Street as we looked at the windows, and he explained the history behind those. I went on attractions that I hadn't been on before. Tiki Room. He said, "Hey, have you been on Tiki Room?" And I said, "No. In all the 20 years that I've been down at Disneyland, I never have done that. It's always just been my Dole Whip stop on my way back to Tomorrowland." And so he took me in there and, again, talked me through the history of it. And in that one trip, completely changed my perspective. And so it married well with my perspective as a child. But it changed the direction and the way I experienced the parks. And so at that point, I began to look more into Disney World, because it's just kind of the natural question, well, what's Disney World got that Disneyland doesn't? And so in the early, I think it was about 2009, I went down with a friend of mine to Disney World and just was blown away. I couldn't believe what I saw. I couldn't believe all the things. There were so many things there that would touch on almost any person that I believe would ever walk through their parks. There was the Disney cartoony magic, and there was a very educational side to it. When you go into World Showcase and you learn about all the different countries, just amazing things down there. 4 parks, all the resorts, it blew me away. And while I was down there, I couldn't help but think that this was an experience I wanted my family to have, my entire family. And so I came back after that year and talked my family into going down the next year. So we went down a group I think we were about 15, and we went down and had just such a wonderful experience. And like I said before, Disney World spoke to, the older people in our family. It spoke to all the young kids in the family. There was something there, and it was just a hugely magical experience. And since then, my intention was to go to Disney World every other year, and then every other year in between go down to Disneyland. But it ends up that I've been going to Disneyland every other year and somehow managed to get to Disney World every year. So what's interesting, though, is that the Disney World experience for people that are from the Rocky Mountain area can probably be very daunting, because it requires a lot more planning. It isn't like Disneyland is, where you can go down, and Disneyland tends to be a part of your California vacation, 1 or 2 days there. Disney World is a destination. It is your trip. We spent from 5 days to 10 days at Disney World, but it requires a little more careful planning, and you kind of really need to know what you're doing for it to be a good experience, because if you don't, you're going to get lost, and you are going to have probably less of an experience that you would have hoped for. The investment in it, it's odd. If you compare prices from Disney World to Disneyland, you'll notice that the prices to be in the parks at Disney World ultimately are cheaper than Disneyland. For those of us in this area or other parts of the country, the expense really comes in the airfare. So you really have to kind of think through all these things, but the value, I find immense value at Disney World, whereas it's a little more expensive at Disneyland. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm coming from. That's my perspective. So like I said, it'll be a little more slanted towards Disney World, because I think that's the part that more people are unfamiliar with, and hopefully encourage and get some people to go down there. And maybe instead of going down in October when all of Utah vacates and goes to Disneyland, that some people may actually choose to get on a plane and go experience Disney World for the first time. So that's it for today's Chatterbox. As we go forward, we'll talk about more of those things that go into planning the trips and being part of it. With my family, we have a lot of fun every time we go to Disney World. We have parties leading up to it where we have contests. In fact, this first video is going to be part of a contest that we have where we make submissions and then we decide who wins. So this is going to be my video submission to that party that we're going to have. But whether it's Disneyland or Disney World, you can have a lot of fun even leading up to those trips. So hopefully you'll stay with me as we do this, and you'll have just as much fun as I have, and that you will also get as passionate about it as I am. All right, so this last segment I'm calling the Groovy Suvi. It's going to be an opportunity for me to show you some of the souvenirs I've picked up over the years at my during my Disney park trips. The first one I'm going to show you today is the monorail. It's a die-cast monorail train that I picked up in 2009 at Walt Disney World. It's one of my favorites. It's the blue line. I know at the time when I saw this, they sold several different colors. Oddly enough, I haven't been able to find this since I've been down there. I do see multiple versions of the monorail that has track. It's more of a toy that you can play with on the track, and they're plastic, but I haven't seen the die-cast. If I do see the die-cast again, I'm going to pick up probably a few other colors because I enjoyed it so much. That will do it for the show today. I'm sure grateful that you decided to watch. If you liked what you saw and want to be a part of this, please subscribe to my channel, and I invite all comments, negative, positive, jokes, whatever you want to say. Please put comments below. I'll respond to them, and you can tell me what you want to see or hear, and that's what we'll talk about. I also hope to have other guests on here with me. I know a lot of people that are passionate about Disney parks, and I'd love to have them on here to talk about their experiences and their opinions as well. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.